We're back.
Sure we are.
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah.
We're actually doing this.
It's been a long time.
Why'd you stop saying the fuck word?
I don't know. I'm trying to
the fuck word.
I'm trying to cut back.
Oh yeah, okay. So we'll do housekeeping later. What? Sorry, I feel like I need to make context for that laugh. Is that my mom covers her mouth while she's being obnoxiously breathing over there.
I was clearing my throat because Canada's on fire and it's really, really smoky here in Colorado. So probably really sucks to be in Canada. I'm sorry.
Or
sorry.
north of us.
Yeah, it sucks. I can't believe there's such a big fire that we can smell it, taste it, and feel it here.
Yeah.
That's very sad.
It is. It's really sad.
Yeah. I was thinking about all the animals and people and, ugh, it's heartbreaking. So that was why I was covering my mouth to clear my throat because I have smoke inhalation today.
The drama is real, y'all. My mom is the most dramatic person I know.
Okay.
So I am now 1 degree hotter. I got my BS. That's a Bachelor of Science for anyone wondering.
Yeah, okay.
Not my bullshit.
Yeah, Daphne's full of BS.
I am full of BS. But
Although she actually did graduate. So yay.
I actually did. There's proof. I have a diploma and everything.
No, you don't. You have the empty thing that they're going to send you your diploma to put it to it later.
Put it to it.
Whatever. But you got grades.
I did. Well, yeah, I walked. They
Yes.
said my name.
And everything.
And everything. I even wore a dress. Like, what a day to be alive. You had to have seen it. I was in a dress. So, yeah, that's why we haven't been here. So, when you're listening to this, the Key West episode will be posted first, which we did a while ago and then just ran out of time. I was in finals and then had family coming into town. For those of you whose family doesn't live here, and when you have to have them come into town, you know, the stress is real. Getting everything prepared and then having a party and doing all the things that took time away from us, unfortunately, being able to produce our passion project.
Yes. And I was sick and I went to New
Oh,
York.
yeah.
And
Those things also happen.
yeah, because it was a whole month. So we can't blame graduation and family. Although that was a 2-week thing going on.
That was a 2-week thing.
And then I went to New York and I was really, really sick.
Yeah.
Post
It was
New
a
York.
while.
Yeah.
It's been a minute. But Mom, okay, what is your disturbing fact?
Oh, yeah. It's creepy because I don't want to call it disturbing because it has to do with a religion. So I don't want to offend anybody by calling anyone's religion disturbing. But this particular aspect of the religion is very creepy, I feel.
Okay.
So this is
Human sacrifice.
not
Oh,
quite.
shit. Her
Not quite,
face.
not quite.
She's like, well, it's not, but it's close.
Right. So Zoroastrians leave their dead in special towers to be eaten by vultures. These special towers are called dogma, and they are called the Towers of Silence. And they're like circular, they're raised off the ground, and they're built specifically for the purpose of what they call excarnation in order to avert contamination into the soil. So that way, when they put the dead bodies and they leave them for vultures and other scavenger birds to consume the flesh, that it doesn't contaminate the soil. So that's why they're built upward. And
Well, that's actually kind of genius.
it is kind of genius, I guess. But I don't know. It reminds me of Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds a little bit, except the people are already dead. But
Wait, so they kill the people and then just leave them up there?
No,
it's
it's
not like
like-
they just passed when it was their time and then they put them up
no,
there?
they pass when it's their time and then they put them up there. Zoroastrianism is a religion it's an Iranian religion. So it's very old and always, like all religion, it's one of the oldest religious organizations, organized faiths or however you want to look at it. But always, like with all, it's the good versus the evil. And so the sacrifice is to help their relatives pass on to the other world and give the sacrifice in order to,
Is this still a thing?
I don't know if it's still a thing.
Well, I guess it could very well be. I just feel like it's not something that Americans would like be okay with.
No. No, because it's Iranian.
No, I know you said that, but that's why I'm wondering, like, but I guess their legislation is like way different over there.
Yeah, clearly. So anyway, but like I said, I don't want to say that it was disturbing because it's a religious a religious?
I don't know. I actually think it's genius because I'm like all about keeping the soil healthy and keeping, our humic acid at good levels. So vegetables and trees and all that will grow.
Right. And I'm kind of anti-cemeteries. And if you're not anti-cemetery, that's fine. I have nothing against you. But me personally, I don't want to be put in the ground in a box.
I was talking to somebody the other day and they walk their dog in a cemetery because it's like peaceful.
Well, I imagine it is.
Yeah. And nobody's going to come bother them and their dog.
Well, and that being said, you and I love to go to the old cemeteries like in the mountains and read the old headstones and stuff. So I find that really interesting. But me personally, I don't want to be put in a box in the ground. And I love my car a lot. And so what I told Daphne the other day is that when I die, I want to be cremated and then I want my ashes put in the ashtray of my car. And my car is old enough, yes, to have an ashtray, but I love it and it's amazing. So when I die, I want to be put in the ashtray of my car.
Yeah. I mean, that might weird me out when I inherit your car, so it might not happen. Maybe I'll make you into a ring like I'm having Aspen done right now. Yeah, I'm having my cat put into a ring. She's not alive anymore. It's her ashes. I feel like I needed to say that because, we're that's clear disturbing. That up. So it's like, oh, my poor cat, have her turned into a ring. No, we're good on that front. She passed away.
Or some kind of spooky witchcraft.
Yeah, shit. No, she passed away, and I'm having her turned into a ring. And it's going to be really cool and really beautiful.
It probably will be amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
Something to do with the ashes.
Yeah, absolutely. Since it took me forever to find her an urn, and she doesn't fit in the urn.
Yeah.
Not alive again, her ashes. What remains of her does not fit in the urn.
Right.
A couple toes. Just kidding.
Oh, wowzers.
All right. Are you ready to get into the case?
I am.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about Samuel Little. Have you ever heard of him?
Nope, I can't say as I have.
I can't say as I have.
Well, maybe when you start, I will be like, oh, yeah, I know this. But as of this moment, the name does not ring a bell.
Okay, that's weird because he's like one of the most prolific serial killers in the United States.
As in?
Prolific.
No, I understand what prolific means. Wow. Sorry, any hoodles.
Okay, but yeah, so his body count, if you will, his murder count is 3 times as high as Ted Bundy's, John Wayne Gacy's. So I think Ted Bundy was 36, John Wayne Gacy was 33, around that range.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll get into how many people he's killed. But this one...
If it's 3 times as much, then it's in the 90s, yeah?
Yeah.
That's commitment.
But you don't know how... It is commitment to his job.
Right.
Oh, what was I? Oh, this... I don't know how many parts this is going to be. I guess we'll play it by ear. But then at the end, we'll wrap it into a nice little bow. The last 20 minutes of the last part, we'll recap everything and just make it pretty.
Okay.
Or not pretty because it's not very pretty at all.
Right. And should we quote you on that 20-minute? Or should we just leave that loose as well?
We should probably leave that loose.
Okay.
Because we know how long it takes me to do something, and it's not 20 minutes. It's 6 hours.
Well, no, don't say that. People will never listen. I don't have that kind of time in my life.
Right. Yeah, basically.
Listen while you're sleeping.
I'm like the sloth from Zootopia. Tells one joke and the business is done for the day. Okay, so he was born Samuel McDowell, June 7th, 1940 in Reynolds, Georgia. And he claimed that his mother, Bessie, was a teenage prostitute who abandoned him. But authorities say that she might have given birth to him while she was in jail.
So either way, not a solid scenario.
No, either way, not a very stand-up parent.
Right.
But according to the census from the year that he was born, his mom worked as a maid and his dad was 19-year-old Paul McDowell. I don't really know how he came about to change his name because he was born Paul McDowell, but obviously I just said that his name was Samuel Little. So I don't really know.
He was born Paul McDowell?
Or his dad was Paul McDowell.
Okay, I'm like, wow, he changed everything.
His dad was Samuel McDowell.
No, his dad was Paul McDowell.
Yes, thank you. I'm like, I can't do this. English no good today.
Okay, you need to...
Shortly after he was born, though, he moved to Lorain, Ohio, where his grandmother brought him up and raised him. Obviously, brought him up and raised him are the same thing. In middle school, he had some behavioral problems. And at this point was where he started fantasizing about strangling women. And this is when he stated that he like saw his kindergarten teacher touching her neck. And we don't really know if like he like was having flashback memories of this, which is very well possible given everything I'm going to talk about later, or if like he ran into her and she was touching his neck or touching her neck and he's like, ooh, I kind of like this. I don't know.
And he was fantasizing about strangling women in junior high.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I know. Real solid. So also just of note, when he was a teenager, he started collecting true crime magazines, and these depicted women who were being choked and strangled. So we don't really know I don't really know. I wasn't alive in the 60s.
Same.
Or the 50s, I'm sorry, 50s, 60s-ish.
Either way.
If these images were allowed in these magazines.
But if you're saying they're depicted, they're not described, they're depicted.
So we
One
don't know
would
if it's
assume
like,
that they would be photographs.
Yeah.
Or drawings.
Or drawings or just descriptions.
Okay.
But anyway, he started collecting those, which like creepy, weird. I mean, I collect true crime magazines, but that's because I want to like report on the things, not act on them.
I was going to say, I feel like I've seen a few of those laying around here, but okay, no comment.
Well, okay, actually, I don't collect them. I just read them leisurely. But I don't even know if that's a leisure read. Okay, anyway, moving on. We're talking about Samuel Little, not Daphne King. So his crimes started at 16 years old, where he was convicted of breaking and entering in Omaha, Nebraska. And he was held in juvie, and his mom was listed on his booking card as whereabouts unknown.
That's sad.
Yeah, that's really sad. Like, ugh, could you even imagine? Well, like, I couldn't imagine if, like, I didn't know where you were.
No comment. I would hate it if I didn't know where you were, but no comment
on your mom.
Correct.
Okay, cool. So in 1961, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison, and this is when he was breaking and entering into a furniture store in Lorain, his hometown, essentially his hometown where he was raised.
Uh-huh.
But he was released in 1964. And while he was in prison, he started boxing, and he referred to himself as a former prize fighter.
Wow.
So I guess that's one way, rebrand yourself.
Well, yeah, okay. I'm like, a lot of people find religion. I don't know that a lot of people claim to be a former prize fighter.
Yeah, right. People will learn new languages, find religion, take up a book club.
Become lawyers.
Yeah.
Yeah, get their degrees and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because if you go to jail, they'll pay for you to do that.
Yeah, right.
Which I don't recommend being like, oh, let me go to jail so I can get a free degree. But although at this point, with how much student loans I have, that might have been the better alternative.
Oh, no, that's why she's collecting true crime magazines.
So in the late 60s, he moved to Florida with his mom. So I guess she came back into the picture.
Sounds like it.
And it said that he was working various jobs as a cemetery worker and an ambulance attendant.
Well, those, I don't know.
He's like, this is how you bring people back to life. So I want to do the opposite of that. And then this is where we bury them.
Yeah, right. That's what I was thinking.
This is where we bury the bodies.
I was like, huh.
So I guess after this, he was kind of like a transient. It said he lived like a nomad lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So he began traveling and having run-ins with the law. And it said, I saw two different sources that one said he was arrested in 8 states, but one said he was arrested in 11 states. So anyway, he was arrested many a times in many a states for crimes such as drinking and driving, fraud, shoplifting, solicitation, armed robbery, aggravated assault, and rape. Yeah, real solid guy.
I have no words. Wow. Wow is my word.
Real solid stand-up individual, if I do say so myself.
Sure. Okay.
So on May 27th in 1971, he was arrested with his then girlfriend, Lucy Madero.
Okay. I can't see because you're way over there on the other side of the room.
Anyway, they were robbing a gas station together. But while they were both in jail, she confided in her cellmate, Aurelia Jean Dorsey, and she goes by Jean.
Okay.
That she was going to testify against him. And then in 1972, when they actually went to trial, she did testify against him. But his defense team was able to work some kind of magic because they knew that she was going to testify him because the cellmate, Gene, was sharing that information with his defense team.
Oh, never mind. I was going to be like, how does a cellmate get access to a defense team of...
Probably because she tried to cut some kind of a deal.
Yeah, I guess. She probably had to talk to her lawyer.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, what kind of contact would... Never mind. Okay. I'm overthinking.
But anyway, it was due to this and her help that he was not found guilty for the robbery of a gas station. But he and Gene actually ended up staying together until 1988.
I thought Gene was the cellmate.
She was the cellmate. They got together.
Okay, so they got together. They didn't stay together.
Okay, they got together and then they stayed together until she died from a brain hemorrhage.
Oh, that's
in
sad.
1988.
Because the one that was the
original girlfriend, yeah. Well, she snitched. Snitches get stitches.
Yeah.
You think he wants to stay with a snitch?
Snitches wind up in ditches, bitches.
Yeah, especially given like his lifestyle. You think that they want to stay together?
Right. But, okay, never mind. I was going to say, but the other chick snitched too, but I guess
she snitched in his
proactively
favor.
snitched.
She snitched in his favor so his defense team could help him out.
Right.
Not
against him.
Not against him.
To save her own skin.
Yeah. But anyway, she was 27 years older than him when she passed away.
Well, and probably the whole time she was alive also.
Probably that too. So he confessed to 93 murders in his lifetime. And there are 50 verified confessions, and there's many pending their confirmation. And he strangled all of his victims, except for 2 who were drowned. But he said that he never stabbed or shot anyone.
Oh, okay. So that makes you better? Or?
I guess. He's like, yeah, but look at me. I never, like, shot anyone. So shouldn't I get some kind of, like, leverage in prison?
Right. I actually worked harder for it because I had to strangle someone. You know what kind of time that takes?
Manual labor, bitch.
Oh, jeez. Sorry. We're bad. This is bad.
We're very bad. So anyway, the FBI defines his victims as his confirmed victims, his unmatched confessions, and then the ones who he's claimed but no bodies have been found.
Okay.
And he had a photographic memory, which is why I said earlier that maybe he was just envisioning the time his kindergarten teacher touched her neck.
Mm-hmm.
Or like I said, maybe he like ran into her again in middle school and that's when he saw it, his former teacher touch her neck. But anyway, he was said to have a photographic memory and he was able to go into detail of where he met his victims and where he killed them and where he left their bodies, what they looked like. However, he was unable to like keep track of his own timelines and his distances because he was proven to be off by more than 10 years and 40 miles.
Wow. So like he's fixated on the crime because that's where the joy and satisfaction are.
Right, but not the location or the time.
Right, the details of where he's at and
what time it was or what day it was.
Right, that's
what year.
It doesn't matter.
So he says he strangled his victims between 1970 and 2005. But many of his victims were actually ruled as overdoses or attributed to accidental causes. And like I said, there were many whose bodies like just haven't been found.
That's really sad.
Yeah, they just didn't think there was a serial killer. They're like, oh, she died of natural causes. Which
How
I feel like if you have
a
like
natural cause,
bruises around your neck, it's probably not very natural looking.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Strangulation. How is strangulation natural causes?
I don't know, but they should probably look into that.
I feel like they should.
Because that's not natural.
No, because if you did that, you would be hanging from something. You can't strangle yourself.
Although I did see sometimes, too, that he used some suffocation styles as well, where he might like put a pillow over their face while he's holding their neck.
Okay, well, sometimes I sleep with a pillow over my face, yet I wake up every morning.
Yeah, right.
Without bruises on my neck. And okay, and let me say the only reason I sleep with a pillow on my face sometimes is to block out the light and or the birds that sing really loud outside my window.
Aw, singing birds. They're trying to serenade you. And
I
you
know,
don't
but
want to
at
listen
4
to them.
a.m. it's like,
That's
nature.
rude. That's rude of you.
No, I don't want nature at 4 a.m.
So there are recorded confessions that he did, kind of creepy, but we'll link them in the show notes so everybody who cares can go listen to them.
Okay.
And
I care. I might want to listen.
I'll write that these are the recorded confessions as well. But yeah, kind of creepy. I don't know. It's like the Ted Bundy ones and like the other ones where you actually hear their voices and them talking about what they did.
Right.
It just makes
it's like
Richard
a whole Spector.
It's like a whole new level of grim.
Yeah. No, I get it. There's a ton of them. Ed Kemper, Richard Spector.
Oh my God. Ed Kemper is weird where he's talking about fucking his mom's head.
Ugh, okay. That made me...
That's what he did. And those are like basically his exact words.
I know.
Which is like, ugh.
Yeah.
So from here, we're kind of going to be jumping between timelines, and I'll go into more explanation while we're jumping.
Okay.
But he was arrested in 1982 in Pascagoula, Mississippi, and he was charged with the murder of a 22-year-old. Her name was Melinda Rose LaPree, and she went missing in September of that year. But a grand jury declined to indict him for her murder, which I'm not sure why this happened, but I do know that down the line they reopened the case.
Okay.
Which we'll get into.
I don't know. I think grand juries have to have so much evidence in order to indict someone. So if their evidence isn't there, then they don't want to waste time. And especially probably in a state like Mississippi where the resources are probably limited.
Right. They don't have a ton of money to spend on these kinds of things.
So they have to go for the slam dunks and not the maybes.
Not the maybes?
Nope.
Maybe baby. So at this time, though, after they decided not to indict him, he was extradited to Florida where he stood trial for the murder of 26-year-old Patricia Ann Mount. And her body was found in September of 1982. And witnesses identified him as the man who spent time with her the night before her disappearance. But due to the mistrust of witness testimonies, he was acquitted in 1984, which really sucks.
Yeah.
Because it's like, he has all these charges prior against him, right? He's been accused of murder, but in the past in a different state. It's like, you don't think that they would put two and two together and maybe, I don't know, trust the witnesses?
Maybe.
After
you
this...
know how it is. Sorry. I'm just thinking.
Right. Well, we see time and time again justice not being served.
Right.
So what really makes this any different, I guess? So in 1984, he was acquitted. And at that point, he moved to San Diego in October. And he was arrested for kidnapping, beating, and strangling 22-year-old Lori Barrios, who survived the attack because she decided, smart girl, play dead.
Oh, that is smart.
So he went and he dumped her on the side of the road after driving around in his car. And she was like, okay, I'm going to play dead. And then after he drove off and, she could see he was far enough away and then out of her sight, she ran and she immediately went to the police, which it's like, again, I feel like that's something that doesn't happen all the time, or it's not believed. Anyway, they'll be like, oh, well, you didn't die, so tough shit. But I'm happy that she actually was, brave enough to go to the police because most of the time they won't do anything.
Well, and they do the victim blaming. What were you doing to be in this situation?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you sure you didn't ask for it?
Right.
Yeah.
What were you wearing?
Right.
Yeah, so fucked up. So 1 month later after this, so she obviously gave them a play-by-play of we were here when he attacked me. He dumped me here. Point A, point B.
Mm-hmm.
Or I guess point C would be the dump because he picked her up somewhere. But that would be point A. But anyway, the attack, we'll call that point B. So police are circling around that area, just doing a drive-by. And they saw him in the backseat of his car zipping up his pants. And he was next to a beaten and strangled Tanya Jackson. And he killed her.
Wow. But is this the same day?
This is a month later.
Oh, a month later. I'm sorry. Apologies.
But he only spent 2.5 years in prison for both crimes.
That's
fucked up.
I have no words. How do you kill someone and get caught basically in the act of it?
Yeah.
And attempt to kill someone else after you've raped them and dumped them and do 2.5 years?
Well, you and I always talk about, there's the people out there who had they were selling a dime bag of weed.
And then, do 20 years.
Yeah. And then there's these guys and it's like, oh, there's no space. I mean, okay, I will say I don't think that we should have heroin and meth dealers just out there roaming because those are truly dangerous things. And I mean, amongst many other things. But I will also say I don't think weed is a gateway drug and that those people should not be facing, these really harsh sentences.
Well, and if you have a dime bag, well, okay, just... For argument's sake, because people do get arrested for just having a joint or a dime bag or whatever, which a dime bag is $10 worth of marijuana.
Yeah, a little bag.
Right. And people that have kilos and stuff, yeah, those people are obviously distributing and, Not that I,
Right, they're a supplier.
yeah, and not that I still think it's a gateway drug or whatever, but way different. And way
Yeah.
different than murdering, strangling, raping, leaving someone for dead.
Right, and these people are serving 20 plus,
Yeah.
20 to life in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
And then this guy only got 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Fucked up.
It's so fucked up. And probably honestly has something to do with the victims,
Yeah.
you know?
Well,
Because if it was like Hillary Clinton's daughter or something, they would be getting life.
yeah, it would be a serious crime.
Right. But
But
it's some
these-
person that nobody knows.
So these
and-
girls that he went for were like prostitutes, down on their luck, homeless women, vulnerable women. That's who he went for. That's
so
like his-
society's castaways.
Yeah, society's castaways. And so what we're going to be moving into, a lot of these are his accounts. I'll tell you what's his accounts versus like what I'm just reading. I mean, all of them are his accounts, but some of them are his direct words.
Okay.
So I'll tell you what are his direct words. And they're from the Texas Department of Public Safety and the FBI. And I'll kind of give more explanation as we get down the line. However, a lot of these are just his accounts. Like, we don't know if these people are legit linked to him. We don't know whose bodies have been found, whose hasn't, who are Jane Doe's, who are just stories. Although the police think that he's not actually making these things up, that he probably did do all of these things.
Okay.
But he has confirmed victims. We know their names. We know exactly what happened, and their bodies have been found.
And there's 50.
There's 50 of them.
That's crazy.
Yeah, there's 50. At least we don't know the names of all of them, of the 50,
Mm-hmm.
but there's some that we do know the names of. So I'll get into them
But there are
first.
50 confirmed victims, whether or
Yeah.
not they're Jane Doe's or identified.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
Exactly.
Out of 93,
So after his release of 2.5 years at prison, Dirty Dick,
right?
he moved to Los Angeles and committed a lot of murders there. So the first one was Carol Alford. Actually, she wasn't the first one, but the first named one on this list.
Okay.
Her body was found July 13th, 1987. She was 41 years old. It says that they discovered his DNA on her underwear and under her fingernails, and her body was discovered in an alley in Los Angeles. From the waist down, she was naked. Her daughter had to come identify her body,
Well, that's sad.
and she had been forcefully strangled to death, and an autopsy indicated that she had experienced other wounds, and these wounds included like punches to her head because she had some blunt force trauma to her head
Aw.
and then was strangled to death.
So she died traumatically?
Yeah, really traumatically. I mean, they all do, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Guadalupe Apodaca, she was found September 13th, 1987. She was aged 46. She was found in an abandoned auto repair shop in Los Angeles. And a boy who was kicking a soccer ball against the building, he peered into the windows and he saw her lifeless body.
Aw.
Yeah. So authorities determined that he kneeled on her chest and then strangled her forcefully with his hands, like pressure though, a lot of
Mhm.
pressure because he was kneeled down on top of her.
Right.
And this actually caused her to have a seizure, which didn't help in the ending of her life.
Yeah.
She was nude from the waist down and she had blood in her anal cavity.
Aw.
Yeah.
Fucker.
Yeah, he's a dirty piece of shit.
Yeah. Concur.
Then we have Audrey Nelson. She was found August 14th, 1989. She was 35 years old. I also just want to say before we get into more of these, and then I'll jump back into Audrey, that he was black. He went for, it seems like, his own race most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But there are outliers like Guadalupe, she was Hispanic. There's a couple other Hispanic. Audrey, she was white. There's a couple other white girls. But they were mostly black females.
Okay.
So Audrey, her body was found in a dumpster behind a nightclub and a restaurant. And there was nothing that could be found to identify her body. She was naked from the waist down. She had been repeatedly hit in the head and being forcefully strangled. Additionally, she had road burns all over her body that suggested that she had been like dragged across a hard surface, which was most likely before she passed away.
Mm.
And she had a smashed spinal bone.
Oh.
She had tons of bruises on her stomach, and this looked like she had like been punched a bunch of times over and over again. And then according to the coroner's testimony in her case, she had serious injuries from strangulation, a stomach injury that showed a sign of considerable force. And these signs of force are the greatest that I have seen in my 27-year practice in a county which has its share of strangulation cases.
Wow.
And then they found his DNA under her nails, which linked him in the future. But we'll get into the arrest and all that.
So in the
at a later
future,
time.
so all the ones that you've just said that he left his DNA, they just collected it, but they didn't have a match.
They just didn't have a match, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, the CODIS and all that, the DNA testing wasn't this far advanced back
Right.
then.
And
It was like a matching of a fingerprint kind of thing that they could get you on back then.
right. Well, they had DNA, but it wasn't like it is now. And they also didn't have
It
the
wasn't
national.
easy to match.
Right. And they didn't have the national database and all of that.
Technology just wasn't as far along at this point as it is today. So we have our first unnamed Black female. She was found in 1987, and this happened in 1987, obviously. This is his whole account, and this is going to be the longest one that I'm going to read, but this is his whole account. There's not really much other information out there on her, like there is on some of them, but there's not a ton on her.
So was she found?
She was found.
Okay.
He met a Black woman in shorts near Central Avenue in Los Angeles not long after he got out of jail and while he was still on parole. He went to a drug dealer's house, and this drug dealer, who was also a pimp, told her to go with him.
Okay. I was
Yeah.
going to say he's an entrepreneur.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
Shit. So they walked down Figueroa, I think that's how you say it, street, and then they turned left onto Florence Street. Just painting a little bit of picture here.
Okay.
They bought some weed, and then they walked back to Figueroa Street to an empty house. And then on this empty house, there was a garage, and there was only a hook on the garage door.
Can I just interrupt you for 1 second? Because I just had a thought. Why did they have to go buy weed if...
They came from a drug dealer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. You don't have that detail.
I don't have that detail, but
Right.
they went somewhere else to go buy weed. Maybe she didn't want to buy from her supplier, get high on her own supply. So then they went to this empty house, right? And it was also like near a gas station. And they went into the garage where there were sawhorses, wood planks, and a bunch of paint in the garage. And then there was also a wide ledge in this garage, like a shelf kind of unit on the wall. And so she had jumped up there. He had joined her. He said it was made out of very strong 2x4s.
I guess if two people are on it.
Right. So he
Because
said,
you're painting a very vivid picture.
I'm trying to.
No, I appreciate that.
This is what he had to say about it. This is his account.
I appreciate it.
So he said that she had a big butt and she was a Black woman. She had a big butt. She was between 23 and 24 years old. She was dark skinned, stood about 5 feet tall, weighed about 140 pounds. So he joined her on the shelf. She began to play around with her like chain necklace that she had on. She had a chain on her neck.
Mm-hmm.
Then she began to just like toy around with it. And that's when he was like, oh, I'm going to strangle you.
Wow.
Yeah, apparently it just brought back some memories for him.
Kindergarten is relived.
Kindergarten all over again. I'm
Jeez.
sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
No, it's bad.
So they fought and they both fell off the shelf onto a platform. And then he strangled her and she was like on her back while he was strangling her. And then he left her fully dressed, but he flipped her onto her stomach and left her on this board. And then about 2 weeks later, he walked past the garage again and he saw that it was covered with yellow police tape.
Mm-hmm.
And then a few months later, he said he walked past the garage again and it was torn down.
So he didn't sexually assault this victim.
No,
Okay.
this one was not an essay.
Okay.
And then our second unknown Black female, 1987. So he killed her in Los Angeles and he left her body on a rail next to a convenience store. He met her at a motel that she was living in next to this Tam's Hamburger Stand Place restaurant.
Hamburger stand place restaurant.
And he said that she like went back and forth between the hotel and the burger place. And he described her as being 5'5" to 5'6" with light honey-colored skin. She weighed about 120 to 125 pounds. She was approximately 23 years old. He said at this point he may have been in Long Beach, but he doesn't remember. He just remembers leaving her on the rail of this convenience store at about 2 or 3 a.m. and he thought he killed her in 1987.
Okay. I like how he just remembers certain details and not others. But I mean, like I said, I guess it's...
The thrill.
Yeah, it's the details that stick out for him,
Yeah.
you know?
So another unknown Black female, 1987. This was approximately in March or April. He met a 5'5" to 5'6", 120-pound. She was about 19 years old, honey-colored skin, black female. He described her as a crackhead gangbanger.
Nice.
In Compton. He said that she was a blood because she had a red bandana on and had tattoos all over her body. He took her to a parking lot in Compton. He strangled her and she fought for her life. Like, she really
As one does when you're being strangled.
Like, she was, I guess, a fighter, though, like, more than he had encountered.
Right.
He said he dumped her body over a tall fence in Hollywood Hills. He was driving for someplace to find, a place to dump her body.
Mm-hmm.
Drove towards Hollywood Hills, took this street up, saw a fence like halfway up this hill, and was trying to lift her body onto it. And she was stuck on the top of it. But he finally got her over it, and he heard her body roll down about like halfway, he thinks, and she was fully dressed.
Wow.
Yeah, and again, he believes he did this in 1987.
Okay. Sorry. It's just like frustrating in a way that he's like, well, I think it was 1987.
Yeah, super uncool.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to do this shit, at least remember the timeline.
Right. Help the investigator solve the case, in other words.
Right. So this is where we jump timeline a little bit to 1996. Again, an unknown black female. He was driving his blue Cadillac, which he called a raggedy old car, but his blue caddy. And he met a 5'6" girl. She was about 120 pounds, 23 to 25, with golden colored skin at Tam's hamburger stand. He really likes this place and to frequent it. And you would think that at this point, they're like, oh, we haven't seen those girls that you were last seen with. So what the fuck are they doing? Fucking bystander effect, motherfuckers.
Yeah, but okay, can I just say if they're prostitutes, maybe it wouldn't be unusual for them to
Frequent there.
and or just disappear.
Yeah.
Like, move on. Doesn't mean they're dead. It just, like, I don't know. Again, society's cast-offs.
So he gave this girl and her friend a ride and then dropped them off wherever they were going. But then the next day, he met back up with her, again at Tam's. And he remembers her wearing a black dress. And he also thought that she was a member of the Bloods gang. And he strangled her in his car and he threw her in the trunk. And then he went to like this horse ranch that he saw. Like, he drove past a horse ranch, quotes, horse ranch.
Uh-huh.
And he left her body in grass covered in this vacant lot, which was next to a convenience store. There is a sketch of her that he drew. So he drew, like, this is the first one that we're talking about that he drew a sketch of.
Okay.
Which is why I haven't brought it up yet. But he, like, drew these sketches in, like, this, what's the word? Why can't I think about it?
A sketchbook?
A sketchbook, but, like, with this material, that, like, glossy, it rubs off on your hands material. Not clay. My brain wants it. Like a wax pen.
Okay.
Like waxy.
Yeah. Got you.
Yeah.
That was like charades and categories and or
what's it? Pictionary.
There you go. Rhymes with sounds like.
So he believed her name was either Sheila or Shella. Yeah, sure. Something like that.
Okay.
So he believed that was her name. But yeah, she's the first one that we have a sketch of on this list.
And are you going to post the sketches?
There's like 30 of them.
So no.
Maybe I could make a collage of them.
I was going to say, or maybe you could just do like a sample.
Yeah. I mean, props to him at least, though, for trying to do something, maybe help them get identified later down the line. I don't think he was remorseful, but at least he was helpful.
I don't know if props to him is the words that you should have used.
Okay, not hats off to you, Samuel Little, but thanks for all you've done, motherfucker.
Right. Thanks for your semi-participation.
Right. Again, 1992, jumping timelines. He met her in either September or October. She was in his Cadillac. She was about 5'7", 200 pounds, light-skinned, and he met her at Tam's. Surprise, surprise.
I really want a hamburger now.
I know, right? Like, scratch those street tacos I'm making for dinner.
Right? We're going to Tam's.
Yeah. Or, no, we're not going to Tam's. Fuck this place. They're bystanders. He said that she had a turban on and it was raining when he went to go give her a ride and that there was some kind of riot happening around and he was driving her to Compton. And then he strangled her and positioned her in his car to just make it look like she was sleeping for the rest of the car ride.
Wow.
So this is something different that he's like actually trying to make her look like she's alive, perhaps, and just sleeping.
Just resting.
Yeah, just resting. But he drove behind, it was either a bank or a loan company. He like drove to the backside of this parking lot and he abandoned her body and he left her face down in some grass there.
That's really sad.
Yeah, this guy's a piece of shit. Another one, 1996, unknown black female, 1996. He thinks this was in 1996. His timelines are off here.
As nearly as he can recollect.
Right. So he met a 5'5", 200-pound heavy set, he described her as, 23 to 24-year-old chocolate brown female. And he said she was a prostitute and he thinks her name was T-Money.
I love his descriptions, though.
He said that she was very popular and all the children in the area knew her name.
Okay.
Yeah, weird, right?
Yeah. And I like his descriptions. Chocolate, honey.
Yeah.
They seem to be food references.
Yeah, maybe he was hungry.
Maybe.
So he said that the woman saw him driving his car one day and then she agreed to go on a date with him. So he took her to the hamburger stand.
Tams.
It said it was located on Slauson Avenue across the street from a medical clinic. So I don't think it was Tam's.
So like the hamburger stand.
It just says a hamburger stand.
Oh, a hamburger stand. Okay.
But I don't think he went to Tam's because Tam's was on Imperial, I believe.
Okay.
So he said that he strangled the woman to death in the parking lot of the hamburger stand. And then he dragged her body to an alley behind the hamburger stand. And it was completely full of garbage. He could barely even maneuver his way through this alley.
Gross.
And then he placed a pile of garbage on top of her, including just a gross mattress.
I reiterate gross in all of it.
Yeah, rude.
The fact that it's dirty and icky and then you...
All right, so it's just not that... I was going to say not that any of this is fucking respectful what he's done. But, this one, I feel is an extra just, fucking punch in the gut.
No kidding.
So he thinks that she was in a black dress, and he left her clothed.
What a fucker.
And then an unknown white female, 1996. He met a 5-foot-tall, 110-pound, 23 to 25-year-old white female with blonde hair and blue eyes. He met her at a homeless camp, so she was a homeless woman, off of Central Avenue and Hooper Street, where there was some railroad track intersections there. And he said that they went to a crack house, her place, her crack house that she used to frequent.
Wow.
And then after they were done there, they walked to a vacant house that was nearby. And he said that the floor was dusty and that she left footprints everywhere. He strangled her and then he took off all her clothes and then he left her in a bathtub. And there is a sketch of this woman.
That's sad.
Yeah. Again, just the audacity of this motherfucker.
Right. And then to make it sound like he's put out that it was dusty and she left footprints everywhere.
I guess it said that he was careful not to try and leave footprints.
So he stepped in her steps or something?
I guess.
Wow.
Dirty piece of shit.
But of note, right? I guess if you're killing somebody, you're like, oh, hey.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. This one, we're circling back to 1987 here.
Okay.
On the day of his release, within the day or two of his release, he killed 2 women this day.
Wow.
The first one he met, and these are 2 unknown black females. He said that she was dark-skinned, slightly chubby, gray hair, gray and black hair. And she was approximately 55 years old, and her name was Granny, is what he said. He said she was in a dress, and he thought he had sex with her. And then he took her to a house that had, that he thought that, I'm just going to try and paint this picture is what he's described. It says it's a framed house with a concrete floor and no roof is what I have in my notes. Mm-hmm. But how he described it was that it was a structure and they had done the floor. They had done the walls and stuff, but the roof wasn't up yet. And it was they kind of abandoned the project is how he described it.
Okay.
This house, they just never finished it.
Okay.
And so he took her back there. Yeah, he said it appeared that they stopped after the 2x4 framing had been completed. And he said he thinks it was located in Inglewood, but he's not sure. And he also said that this is where he believed he was down the street from, he lived on Vermont and 81st Avenue with his girlfriend, with Jean. And he said that he thought he was close down the street from there, from his own home. So he strangled her to death and then he left her in the structure. And then he also said that this place might have been located behind San Pedro.
Okay. Never mind. I'm just thinking, like, if it's close to your house,
Wouldn't you know where you are?
well, and yeah, wouldn't that like ring some kind of a ding, ding, ding bell with you? Because, like, oh, I killed this chick and I left her here and it only took me 5 minutes to get home.
Right.
Yeah, because I guess I don't get how you don't remember the other details of the other murders, like where you are, what year it is, all that. But it seems like if you were near your house, that would be something that would trigger a memory,
Yeah.
you know?
I don't disagree that, I can remember things when they're closer to my house than far away unless I'm on vacation.
Right?
At least like landmarks in my own head.
Yeah, exactly.
My own landmarks.
Right.
And my house is like the one that's like, okay, it's approximate distance to this and this and this.
Exactly. Well, that's my point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dumb motherfucker.
Yeah.
Also, I just want to say that I'm not done yet with these because we still have the second one that he did that day and a few more to go over. But I think it's important to read his accounts of these because, like we always say, we don't give a fucking flying fuck about these dirty pieces of shits. We're trying to do victim awareness.
Hear, hear.
And there's not a lot of knowledge on these women, especially if they haven't been identified or even confirmed to be a victim of his, even though they do think that
he's not full of shit.
They do think that he's being honest. But I know this has been very wordy, but these are his accounts.
Yes.
And we have to take them for what they are. And that, the FBI, the Texas Department of Public Safety, they all urge you to come forward if, any of these descriptions match somebody that you may or may not have known.
Exactly.
Or may or not.
I'm like, I don't know how you may not have known them and be able to come forward, but
that's not what I meant to say. I meant to say, like, if they match somebody that you may have known or, like, you may not have known as missing.
There you go.
Yeah, you may not have known as gone or that, you just thought that they were a transient and that you might not ever see them again.
Right.
Like, they could be one of his victims. And same for, like, so many other cases, that, do your research. If you know these, if you think that this sounds like somebody that you may know, come forward. We could have another Jane Doe be identified.
Yes. Makes sense. And I appreciate the description. And the victims deserve to be identified and have their voice and their...
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Deserve to have, their names back.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line, their names.
Exactly.
And then their voices and so on. But yeah, per the moment, what we know of them is his accounts for the ones that we don't know. And so, yeah. Okay. We can keep rolling. His second victim that he met the same day he got out of jail.
Again, ew.
Or within the next day. Yeah. Sometime in a very close proximity, 24 to 48 hours after being out of prison. And he
Still
got
making
to
up
Los
time.
Angeles.
Like, I haven't killed anybody for a hot minute, so...
Right.
Ugh.
I haven't killed anybody in 2 years, so I'm going to kill 2 people in one day upon my release.
Fucker.
So he met the second woman. He described her as...
Again, can I just say another reason to keep him for more than 2.5 fucking years?
Oh, absolutely. It's such bullshit.
It's such bullshit. Because obviously not reformed in that 2.5 years.
Yeah, no. No, this is where we get the recidivism rate.
Exactly.
And they should have just kept him.
Yep.
Because he wasn't going to change.
Nope.
As we will later find out.
Well, we're finding out right now.
As we continue and we'll later find out.
Okay.
So he described the second woman as a young 22 to 23-year-old skinny black girl. And they met in an alley behind what he believed to be her residence. So I don't know if she's not identified, like how they don't know if this was her residence or not. But he was driving. Oh, he described her as being small, thin, and dark-skinned.
Okay.
He was driving his blue Buick station wagon with brown wood trim on the side. I can picture that in my mind vividly.
Me too.
When he met her. And then he did not think the woman was a full-time prostitute, but that he thought she was trying to hide extra making money from her family. Like trying to have a side hustle.
Yeah, I was going to say side hustle. Okay.
And so he said that she was dressed in pants and looked like the gangbanger type. God, he's a fucking dick.
Yeah, I like how he's super labeling. He's labeling and stereotyping and also a serial killer. All bad things, this guy.
Yeah, all bad things, no shit. So he said that she was dressed like a gangbanger would be dressed and was wearing a hat. And he strangled her to death in his vehicle. and on the side of a very clean alley, as he described, again, next to what he thought was like where she lived.
As opposed to the dirty alley where he left the other woman.
Yeah. And so he said he left her body behind her suspected house near the side of the alley.
Wow.
Yeah, fucking piece of shit.
Yep.
And then our next unknown black female in 92 or 93, he was driving his Cadillac at this time. He met a 5'5" to 5'6", tall, 160 to 180 pound, dark-skinned, big-butted female. He met her on a liquor store on 49th and Central Avenue, and he said that she had a big butt and wore pants. He drove way out, quotes, into the country, possibly down Central Avenue, and then he took her to the side road with elephant grass in it, and behind some trees, he took off her pants, and then he strangled her to death in his vehicle. He dragged her out of his vehicle into some, quote, real tall elephant grass, and then he left her body face down with her big old thighs, quotes, showing in the grass. He said that she was naked except for having her shirt on, but when he dragged her, her shirt became pulled over her head. And then he said that, you know, he left her in the country out there, but then he said that he thinks that they found her by a helicopter flying over, and then there's a sketch of her.
Wow.
Fucking asshole.
Yeah, some of the things that you're saying are like, I just don't have
Make me fucking
words.
sick to my stomach.
Yeah, I don't have words, and it's nauseating. Yeah.
I just thought that this one was really interesting because he's just not talked about. Like I looked up his name inside of Apple Podcasts, and there's like 6 podcasts that have covered him, and there's like over 200 true crime podcasts. We're in a saturated field here.
We are.
And he's not very mentioned, and he's extremely prolific compared to those that like are really commonly talked about, like the Bundys and the Gacy's.
But you know why?
Gary Ridgways.
Do you know why?
Because of his victim type.
Yep. His victimology. Exactly.
Yep. So his next victim was an unknown Hispanic female in 1992 or 1993. And he said he was driving with his girlfriend, Blind Barbara at the time. That's what he referred to her as.
That's not cool.
And his same old raggedy Cadillac. By the way, I'm using air quotes when I'm saying a lot of this. Not that you could see me.
I'm like, I see you.
I'm using air quotes. So, quote, Blind Barbara, unquote. Quote, same old raggedy Cadillac, unquote. I just smacked the microphone quoting, sorry. With my little quotation, my little rabbit ears. He met a 5'9", 120 to 130 pound, slim, 24 to 25-year-old Hispanic female.
And he had his girlfriend with him?
He said he was driving around with her when he met this girl.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm just clarifying. Getting clarification.
Clarifying. He said that he believed that she had long hair and she was wearing a dress, and he also thought that she was from Phoenix. So, random tidbit there.
Well, and I like how you're in the beginning, like, he has a photographic memory in there. Well, I think she had long hair, and I think she was wearing pants.
These are his accounts.
No, I know.
These are not mine.
Clearly.
I wasn't there. I wasn't even born at this time. I came in the picture a few years later. I'm a 90s baby. I'm just not that early 90s.
And you don't have an 80s Mercedes.
No, I don't. No 80s Mercedes. I wish. How sick would that be?
Shout out Maren Morris.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, subscribe. I want an 80s Mercedes. Tell everybody you know to listen. So he met her at a liquor store on Central Avenue and 22nd Street. He drove her around. Then they bought some crack cocaine at some apartments off of Figueroa Street. Again, I don't know how to say that. He took her to an alley behind a business near Vermont Avenue until the business owner told them to leave. They drove around a little and they drank the vodka. And then he took her towards West Hollywood and she stripped naked in his back seat. And then they drove near like where a Coast Guard telescope tower observatory thing was set up. This building was located there, around there. And then he described the building as having a round dome and being military in appearance. And then he said on or just off the same driveway as the observatory, there was a road that went downhill through some woods. He drove down the hill with the woods on both sides of it. And then he stopped about 100 feet from the gas station in a business park at the bottom of the hill. And then he strangled the woman to death. He pulled the woman down the sloped hill that had trees and bushes down it. And then he dragged her again about 30 feet down an embankment from the road into the woods. And then he said he discarded her body. And this is so fucked up. Then he filled up with gas at that gas station. Like, how do you do such a horrific thing and then just do such like a mundane task?
Right? Yeah, because he's a dirty piece of shit.
When I was researching, and that one in specific, I was like, oh, wait, so he literally does this horrible fucking tragic thing, like with such a disrespect for human life. Well, A, he's disrespecting by killing. B, he's disrespecting by like whatever he does with the corpse when he's done with it, right? Whatever he does with their bodies.
However he discards of his kill.
Yeah. And then he just gets gas like it's no big deal. Like he didn't just fucking kill someone.
Well, you know, Dennis Rader.
Had a family, I know.
Yep. Gary Ridgway.
Was a churchgoer.
John Wayne Gacy. It's like, I'm going to go do all this shitty stuff and then I'm going to go have pizza with my family and watch a movie.
Yeah, well, I guess you grow so aware, immune to the effects of what this would do to you, because I feel like you hear all the time that like the one-time killers and they start acting weird and like all this shit.
Well, and clearly 93 murders. This guy is like
knows what he's doing. He can just go back to living his everyday life.
Yeah, I was going to say it's like a second job.
Yeah.
Or maybe he doesn't have a job. Clearly, I don't know. It doesn't sound like...
It's a thoughtless task to him.
Yeah, exactly.
Just mindless.
Yeah, he's on autopilot.
So his next one, or the next one we're going to be talking about, unknown black female, 1991 or 1992. So he met her while driving his Ford F-250 van. And she was either 5'4" or 5'5", about 120 pounds, 20 to 22 years old, dark-skinned, little, quotes, black female near the Frontier Hotel in 3rd Street, which was the original Skid Row.
Yes, Skid Row. We know all about that.
We do.
Listen to the Cecil episode, part 1.
Yeah. And he stated that the woman was a crackhead from San Francisco, that he drove her to a Bald Head Hill. That's really hard to say. Try saying that 3 times fast.
I'm not going to try to say it 1 time slowly.
And that it had a couple trees on it. So I guess basically that's how he described this, why he called it a bald-headed hill, was just because there were no trees on it. Except for a couple, but like mostly no trees, whereas I guess the other ones have loads of trees, the other hills that aren't bald-headed. And there were a couple houses close by too. And he drove on a dirt road behind the houses, and then he drove up a hill on the dirt road. He strangled her, and then he left her naked body on her side or back next to some of these trees, like behind these houses.
Fucker.
Yeah, he's a fucking something. He's a fucking something.
Yeah, he is.
So our next one, unknown black female, 1996. While driving his Cadillac, he met her. So I don't know what's up with him having so many cars.
I wasn't going to go there.
Or maybe they weren't all his and he like stole them. But I don't know. So he's given the accounts of what cars he's in at the time.
Right. And I like how he can remember that.
Right. Even though it's his raggedy old Cadillac.
Right. But he can't remember what year it was or what town he's in.
Yeah. Fucking asshole. So she was about 5'7" to 5'8", about 130 pounds, about 25 years old. And he called her a chocolate black female. He said that he originally met the woman where she was living at a halfway house off of Florence Avenue in a dead-end street that builds up to Interstate 10. He described her as having a big butt and dark skin. He said that they messed around a little bit in a house that was across the street from the halfway house in a garage that was like behind this vacant house that they messed around in.
Mm-hmm. I'm following you.
Yeah. So he saw the woman again, sorry, totally lost my place. So they were messing around and then he tried to like go a little too far and she's like, no, thank you. I don't want this.
Okay.
And
no means no.
Yeah, right. And then he saw her again and she was wearing a long, like flower decorated dress. And then they got in his car and he took her to a nearby automotive supply building. He said it was like an off-brand, like car store, basically, like car parts store.
Mm-hmm.
Not like a Zone, I won't say the name, but like a off-brand version of that.
Okay.
And he said that it was on Florence Avenue between Vermont and Figueroa.
Okay.
And he said that there was a dilapidated truck in the back because they drove behind the building. There was this like just old icky fucking truck. And they got into the truck and then he began strangling her in the truck. And then while he was strangling her, he fell out of this truck onto the ground. Oh, also of mention, there was a residential trailer behind there too. But he said it wasn't abandoned behind the building.
Okay, got it.
But he said it was abandoned. So he was strangling her. They both fell out of the truck onto the ground. And then he killed her. And then he dragged her body to a nearby trash and rubble pile. He thinks it was the one with beer cans, so he's assuming it's the residential one. But he said it seemed like it was vacant.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. There were just 2 trash piles back there. He said he thinks it was the one with beer cans. So probably not the one from the business. Assuming that, they're not drinking on the job.
Or the business wasn't a liquor store?
Yeah. So he said he dragged her by her arms while she was on her back. And then he left her in her dress. And he believes that her name might have been Helen.
Wow.
Yeah. I know. Fucking piece of shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next one, this one's a shorter description. 1987, she was 5'7", about 140 pounds, light yellow-skinned female, about 26 to 27. And he met her on Florence and Broadway Street. He said that they drove around and that she had just gotten out of jail. And then they went to Griffith Park. And then he strangled her on a dirt road. And he allegedly left her body in the woods. And there's a sketch of this woman.
Okay.
And then our next one, I feel like I'm just going so fast through these. But there's not a lot of detail.
I was going to say the detail is very limited.
Yeah. We don't, this is what we know.
Yeah.
Our next unknown Black female, 1984. He met her. She was honey-colored, quotes. She was short and thick. He said that she stood about 5'5", was about 120 to 130 pounds, and she was wearing shorts. And they met near the intersection of Florence and I-10. He drove her up a grassy hill, slope that was leading towards I-10, then stopped halfway up the hill, strangled her, and dumped her body along a service road.
Wow. He has no respect. Clearly, if you're killing people, you have no respect, but then there's an extra level of no respect by just dumping them.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. It's it's bad enough that you're killing people and then just has such little regard.
Yeah. Like they're trash.
Yeah. Yeah, you should just dump them and discard of them however he sees fit. It's so fucked up.
It's super fucked up.
This guy's a dirty piece of shit.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
I know I can't just stress how many times I've said that, but it's true.
Yeah. Facts are facts.
Facts are facts, man. Remember the facts. Dirty piece of shit.
Just the facts, ma'am.
So this next one, unknown Black. I believe this is our last one. This is our last one of this episode.
Okay.
She's an unknown Black female, 91 or 92.
1991 or 1992.
Yes.
Not that she was 91 or 92.
No, she wasn't.
Okay.
So he was in his F-250 van in this one. He met a short, dark-skinned, 23-year-old, 5-foot-tall, 120-pound prostitute named, quote, Linda. Thought her name was Linda. And her friend, quote, Christina. Again, thought her friend's name was Christina.
Mm-hmm.
On Figueroa Street. I don't know. I just don't know how to say that. That one trips me up. I feel like I've been breezing so fast past it because
You're
I'm
fine.
I don't know how to say this. I'm just going to say it the best I can. So he took her into an alley and then he strangled her. And he said he tossed her body over a wooden fence near 71st and Hoover Street and that her body was found by a child.
Where's the friend?
He just left her. He took the friend. He took Linda. He didn't take Christina.
So they were together.
They were together when he met them.
Okay.
But then he says he said that the body was found by a child. He believed of the homeowner's child. And because he dumped the body over a fence.
So how does he know that? Was in the paper or?
Maybe because he's a creep and went back. Like he did with the house.
Do that. Yeah.
With the first one we talked
with the
about.
garage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he also said that this was
killers do that.
Yeah, fucking weirdos.
Yeah.
He said that this was the talk of the neighborhood.
Well, there you go. That's how I knew it was the talk of the neighborhood.
Yeah, but we don't know if this was his neighborhood because it's just so far off on his distances.
Plus, yeah, I'm like, he doesn't clearly even know where he lives.
Right? Clearly. So he said that, I don't know why, but then he went to the police and he said that her friend Christina sold him wax, not crack, and then they arrested Christina.
Oh my God. What the fuck?
Yeah. That's why I left this one for the end.
No shit. Well,
Because I felt like that one's thought provoking. That he's just like, what the fuck?
yeah, like, oh, I'm gonna neglect to mention that I killed her friend, but can you believe this bitch sold me wax instead of crack? And how come he's not getting in trouble for buying crack / wax?
Maybe because he was being an informant.
God.
I know this guy sucks.
Yeah, words
Yeah,
are
not
escaping me.
Yeah, are not possible here because there
Yeah.
are no words for this dirty, dirty piece of shit.
Wow. That's a wow.
Yeah, big fat wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that wraps us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm at a loss.
I guess when we get to the last part, we'll be like, oh my God, this is the last part.
Well, thank you for sharing so far what you've shared. And yeah, no, I had not heard of this guy. But obviously it has to be because of the victimology.
Yeah, because it's not very talked about.
No.
Obviously, if I'm looking up his name on Apple Podcasts and there's only 6 podcasts that have talked about him.
Yeah.
I mean, the ones that talked about him are big name ones, or at least some of them are. There's some of them I recognize, that like ones that I've listened to before.
Well, that's neither here nor there, but the fact that no one's really talking about it in the scheme of things.
Right.
6 out of 200.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
Well, people don't know
Yeah.
because it doesn't come up in a Google search, I guess.
However, I believe that this is one that should very well be talked about because there's so many unknowns in this case. And like, if he's given these descriptions, like, we'll go into it later, but there's a Jane Doe who's been identified and the family didn't know that she was deceased.
Oh, that's so fucked up too.
Yeah.
Like no one's looking for her or
I'll
wondering where
leave
she's
you with
at.
that little breadcrumb for the next one.
Okay, well, thanks for that.
Yeah.
All right, well, I look forward to the next one. Hopefully it won't be in a month.
Yeah, hopefully not. Again, we're sorry.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, people. Yes to each other.
Yes to each other.
Yeah, we failed each other.
Yeah, we did. But I'm 1 degree hotter, so happy about that.
I also am happy about that. All right, thanks for listening. Stay tuned for the next episode.
Yes, follow us on the gram and do the things you do on the gram at That's Disturbing Podcast.
Oh, and email us a case request at our email at that'sdisturbingpodcast@gmail.com.
Yes, our website, that's disturbingpodcast.com, where you should fill out a case request form because I only spent 150 years working on it there, Mom. Don't tell them just to send us Gmails.
Fuck.
Tell them to
fuck
go
it up
to
every
the
time.
website.
Every time. I have no fucking memory skills for those type of things.
What else do we have?
That's it. I think we should go.
Okay, bye.
Bye.